And hello, fabulous students. This is your favorite teacher, Mr. Jacobson. I am excited to be with you today. Today, we're talking about maritime empires connect the world. We got Western Europe. They're about to see that they can get to the Indian Ocean, and we're going to see what are the effects of all that is about to happen. I mean, this whole thing's about to get blown worldwide. We're going to have global networks starting to emerge. The world is never going to be the same after this. So let us begin. Okay, so some technologies we need to be aware of and innovations during that time. Cartography, map making, very important. We have primogeniture laws, which basically, if you're the oldest son, then you get to inherit all the land of mommy and daddy. But if you're the second son or the third son or the fourth son, you're screwed. You don't get anything. So we have these laws that require people to have to, they're not going to get an inheritance because they're not the oldest son. So we have people like that who are going to go out exploring, going to go to the Americas, going to, go somewhere else where they can make a life for themselves, have land, and, kind of get ahead in life. So those kind of laws are going to require people to have to move out of Italy or out of France or all these other places to have to go explore Spain, Portugal, England, etc. You have the astrolabe, you have astronomical charts, the mapping of the stars that become more and more prominent. You have the compass, late teen sales. You just got all these technologies that are starting to sort of converge with one another, and collectively it helps these explorers become much more confident on the ocean as they are searching out new areas. And you got some ships. You have carracks, you have caravels, and you have a flute. All these ships are, if you could look here, this tells you exactly what where they come from, what they are. This is a carrack. As you can see, as it says here, square sails and lateen sails, 3 to 4 masts. So you have square sails here, and then here you have a lateen or lateen sail right here, the triangle shape. And then this one here would be a caravel with the three lateen sails and the three masses. So. Okay, so the Portuguese are going to interact with Africa. The main reason why this happens is because Prince Henry School of Navigation, they're going to map out the coast of Africa, the west coast of Africa. And they're going to figure out, hey, can you actually get around Africa? Or does Africa truly go down all the way to the edge of the earth, like the map suggested during this time period? And so as they do this, they are going to discover that no, that you can go around Africa, and you can make it to the Indian Ocean with an all-water sea route. African rulers are going to also, the Portuguese are going to sell things to these African rulers, and these African rulers are going to give them the Portuguese slaves in return. So you have Portuguese who are going to come with guns and gunpowder and cannons, and they're going to say, "Hey, you got any enemies? Oh yeah, those other tribe over there, they're a bunch of jerks. We've hated them for 500 years." And now they're going to give them a technological advantage to overcome and to conquer their enemy once and for all. And then the Portuguese are going to say, "Hey, the people you capture, just give them to us for payment." And so the POWs will be sold as slaves, and the Portuguese will receive them and use them as they move across the world, especially across to the Americas, like the Spanish will also do. And then Vasco da Gama, he's gonna go around the southern tip of Africa, and then he's going to invade the Swahili city-states in East Africa. He's going to build heavy fortresses all along those trade routes, including more towards India as well. So the Portuguese are really going to make a name for themselves in the Indian Ocean, and they are going to cause chaos. However, things are going to settle down eventually. When the Portuguese arrive in the Indian Ocean, they're going to come with superior naval power. They're going to have religious zeal. They're just going to be fanatics when it comes to wanting to spread Christianity. It's going to be kind of a mission of theirs as well. Remember, with the Loyola of Ignatius of Loyola and the church and their counter Reformation, that they're going to want to go out and preach to people to get more converts. Um, they're also going to determine that they're going to become the top dogs in the Indian Ocean and profit from all this trade. So products that are being traded, you got silk and porcelain from China, you get cloth from the uh, the Gujarati, and these are weavers from Western India. You have agricultural goods from Java. You have spices from all over the Indian Ocean. And the final culmination of who's going to dominate, who's going to be supreme in this Indian Ocean commerce trade happens at the Battle of Diu in the Arabian Sea. And this is a coalition of people in the Arabian Sea who are like, screw these Portuguese. Who are they? They barely even show up. We're not going to let them win here. We're not going to let them take over these trade routes. So you have a coalition of, you have the Gujarati, you have a coalition with them and the Mamluks of Egypt, the Zamorin of Calicut, which is in India, and then they are supported by Venice, the Venetians in Italy, the merchants. And so there's going to be this massive war of ships, if you will, and because the Portuguese have superior firepower with cannons, they are going to win a decisive win, and that will tip the balance of power throughout the rest of the region. So if you look here at this map here, I want to help you understand. So this map, these are trade routes that the Venetians and the Gujarati and all the other ones I mentioned, Calicut, they would use. And notice they didn't know you could go around here. No one went around there until the Portuguese figured it out, right? So the way they would try to get goods over to Europe was they would go through the Indian Ocean and they go up here through the Red Sea, and then they go on land, cross over through Egypt, and then go back on water over to the Mediterranean. And here they do the same thing just in the Middle East by Baghdad, and they cut across the Middle East over here. So as you can see, it's kind of a longer process to kind of have to sail and then stop and then ship the products by land and then stop and then get another boat, and all that takes time. The Venetians were very powerful in this trading network, and this was their trading network. However, it's just more expensive to do it this way. But of course, the Venetians were kicked out of the Black Sea right here when the Ottoman Empire conquered it, so they needed to have other ways in order to travel that they could dominate. Okay, so we also have isolationists that are going to occur in Indian Ocean. The most common isolationist country or empire dynasty, if you will, is going to be the Ming Chinese dynasty. So they're going to first start off and they're going to have all these amazing voyages with Zheng He, who is like one of the greatest explorers of Chinese history. He's going to go all throughout the Indian Ocean, all the way to the Swahili city-states. They're even going to bring back a giraffe, right? And the Chinese are going to be so enamored by this giraffe because they've never seen one before. Well, eventually the Chinese are just going to stop doing overseas explorations. They're going to stop exploring. They're going to stop taking trade to other areas. They're going to destroy the travel logs of Zheng He. They're going to destroy many fleets that they built. They're going to destroy many ship docks. Um, they are going to prohibit their people from going outside of China and trading with other countries, and they're going to go to just traditional style of let's focus on creating this wall So they're going to reconstruct and refurbish the Great Wall that was um, neglected during the Yuan dynasty, but they're going to go back to traditionalism. It's going to be all about Neo-Confucianism, filial piety, going back to the civil service examination. And they are not going to be willing to go out and to reach out to other people in the Indian Ocean. Instead, they can come to us because we're China. And they need to come to us. We don't need to go to them, is maybe one of their attitudes. So, another group that's going to become isolationist would be Japan. So again, the Portuguese meddle in the Indian region, and in Japan during this time when the Portuguese first come to the Indian Ocean, Japan's in a feudal type system where they got many daimos or lords who are fighting each other for power and supremacy. Excuse me. And so the Portuguese are going to come and they're going to sell guns, cannons, black powder, and other ways in which now these daimos can um, get over on their other enemies and start making headway as far as the power struggle that's been going on. Japan was very much a feudal system or a decentralized government, but eventually with the interaction with the Portuguese and the advanced technology that will be spread and sold, we're going to have eventually the Tokugawa shogunate, which is one of the daimos will control all the others, and they will become shogun, and they will at that point have a centralized government. It won't be a decentralized or a feudal system like it was prior. So the Portuguese, while they're there and they're building relationships with Japan, they're also going to spread the gospel of Christianity. They're going to convert thousands of Japanese to Christianity. And eventually, Japan is going to get kind of weary of this and eventually pretty hostile towards it. Japanese government will start expelling all foreign influences. They're going to start persecuting Christians, prohibiting Christians, and eventually even killing Christians. Um, and all these things are going to start coming. They're even going to tell people that in Japan that they can't go out overseas, very much like what China did to their people. And eventually, Japan's going to get to a point where they're only going to trade with the Dutch. And they chose the Dutch, and the Dutch could only trade in one port, and that was Nagasaki, which is the southern part of Japan. And they'll only trade the Dutch because the Dutch weren't as zealous in spreading Christianity as the Portuguese, which they did not like. Okay, so the British, they are also going to make some headway towards the 1600s. The British East India Company is going to emerge. This is a trading company that's both government owned and private owned, and they're going to use those resources to sort of box their way into this major trading network and all these goods that can be sold and utilized for the better gain of merchantry and acquiring wealth. So they're going to control very little territory on the coast of India at the start. However, they're going to be very strategic because the Mughal Empire is there. They know the Mughal Empire has some problems. There's a lot of tension going on between Hindu and Muslims are from the Mughal Empire. And so they're going to start making treaties with local rulers. They're going to start slowly uh, doing political moves and economic moves that's going to strip power from the Mughal Empire. And one thing that they start using is something called sepoys. And a sepoy is a European trained military Indian soldier. So we have someone who is an Indian from India, either a Muslim or a Hindu, doesn't matter. And they are being trained by the British in British tactics with British technology, and they are loyal to Britain as the soldiers and their army, if you will. So eventually, Britain is going to start controlling, uh, mainly through economic power first, and later political power, India. And with the trading posts in Africa and India, Britain's going to create this global network, which is going to make them the most powerful nation on the earth by the end of around 1700s. Okay, so we have the American conquest, the Aztecs and the Inca in the Americas. They were they're about 10 to 15 million people strong, so they're a force to be reckoned with. Hernan Cortez, he's going to conquer the Aztecs, and he's going to start New Spain as the new empire in the Mexican region. And Hernan Cortez is going to conquer Tenochtitlan, which is modern day Mexico City. Then Francisco Pizarro, he's going to conquer the Inca, and he's going to usher in the new Castile Empire, um, which is all Spanish empires or offshoots of Spain. And then you have the Treaty of Tordesillas. So Tordesillas, this whole idea is, Spain and Portugal are the most powerful because of what they're discovering, and they also, kind of speak each other's language since they're both Catholic to a degree. Spain and Portuguese, not too far away from each other. Also, their languages can be very similar. So they have a lot of commonality. Um, when the Spain discovered the Americas, it was decided by Spain and Portugal that there would be a treaty, and that treaty would be, if you look at this down here, you have the line of demarcation, which is right here, and this was Spain basically saying, fine, anything east of this line in the Americas, you can have. Anything west of this line, we get. And so this little tiny piece of land sticking out, which is also part of Brazil today, that's what Portugal got. The rest Spain got. And that was the line of demarcation in the Treaty of Tordesillas. And so here again is that line that I'm trying to show you. So all this right here, east of that line of Brazil, that's what the Portuguese got, and they're going to use that area of Brazil to intensify sugarcane industry. Okay, and then we have some economic systems that occur, which are really important to understand. One is called the encomienda system, and the encomienda system is a system to gain access to gold and silver and other resources in the Americas. It was a coercive labor system for indigenous people to work for them, meaning the Spanish, in exchange for food and shelter, and it was very much like the Europe manor system. This is a system where people could even learn the Spanish language if they worked, and it was considered a cruel system. Um, it, it wasn't a system that was necessarily voluntary, if you will, but it was a means by which they could get the indigenous people to do work that obviously the Spanish didn't feel like they should have to do. And then the hacienda system was was agreed upon by the Spanish government to reward conquistadors like Hernan Cortez, Francisco Pizarro, these people who are willing to put their life on the line, go conquer more land for Spain to make it more grandiose, make it more rich, all that stuff. So the hacienda system was, if you do this for us, then we will grant you large tracts of land in that new region which you helped conquer. And so that's going to be pretty enticing to people, especially the primogeniture laws that they don't apply to them, which means they're not the oldest son. They're going to be very interested in getting land for themselves, even if it's in the Americas. So agricultural land, with coerced labor to run it. So you got big tracts of land, and of course you need slaves to be able to run it, or at least people to run it. And then also the Mita system. The Mita system is a coercive labor system originally instituted by the Inca. Young men were required to devote a certain amount of labor to public works and projects. So if you remember so the Inca would force their young, strong, strapling men to have to work on public works, And they may pay them, something, but it wasn't much at all. It was more an obligation because they were citizens of the empire. So the Spanish are going to continue that system. They're going to say, we like the Mita system. That system, we're still going to continue it. And then they're going to make these young strapling men work in very dangerous conditions in mines so they can extract silver. And the more silver they extract, the more powerful they get because they know they can trade that with China and get top dollar for that in the region. And of course, silver and mercantilism. So, mercantilism is an economic system that increased government control of the economy through high tariffs and establishment of colonies. You get to accumulate lots of gold, wealth, silver, and other precious materials. And a nation that has more exports than imports, that's a strong mercantilist nation. So, if you look here, you see that gold comes from the colonies, right? And then you say it's going to Spain, and then Spain takes all that gold and they make products of which they go way far away to go sell. So you want to export more because if you're exporting more stuff, that means you're selling more stuff. Okay? And then importing means you're buying more stuff. You never want to buy more stuff than you sell. That's a major problem in business. You always want to have sales because sales means money goes in your pocket, and buying or imports means money going out of your pocket. And that's pretty much it. So go ahead and write your one page, at least your one page summary, and we'll talk about it. Thanks. Bye.